There comes a moment in every life when the noise of the world grows so loud that you can barely hear the whisper inside your own soul. A moment when expectations, opinions, and pressures pull you in every direction except the one meant for you. And in that moment, if you're brave enough to pause, to breathe, to listen, you will hear something you may have forgotten yourself. Self-discovery is not a journey across continents or oceans. It is a journey inward, the longest distance, the hardest path, but the one that changes everything. Because the greatest treasure you will ever uncover is the truth of who you are when no one is watching, no one is judging, and no one is shaping your choices but you. There comes a moment in life when the world becomes so loud that your own voice is drowned beneath the weight of expectations, responsibilities, and the constant rush of everything around you. The noise is everywhere, in the opinions of others, in the comparisons you silently make, in the fears that whisper you're not enough. And yet, somewhere beneath all that noise lies a small, steady sound, a voice you were born with, a voice that has been with you since the beginning. It is the voice that knows what you love, what you fear, what you dream of, and what you quietly ache for. But you can only hear it when you stop running and start listening. Picture yourself standing in the middle of a busy city street. Cars rushing, people talking, lights flashing, life moving a million miles an hour. Now imagine closing your eyes. Slowly, everything begins to fade. The voice is the traffic, the chaos. And in that silence, you feel something shift. You feel the presence of the one person you have avoided the most, yourself. That moment, that quiet space you create, is where self-discovery begins. It starts when you give yourself permission to pause, even when the world tells you to keep going. It starts when you decide that your voice deserves to be heard, even when it shakes. And it starts when you realize that silence is not emptiness, silence is clarity. It is in the quiet that you begin to understand what truly matters to you. You begin to notice the dreams you've pushed aside because they felt too big, too bold, or too unrealistic. You begin to recognize the habits, the fears, and the doubts that have shaped your decisions more than you ever admitted. And in that moment of stillness, you start to feel the weight lift, the weight of trying to be who everyone else wants you to be. Because when the noise fades, your truth rises. Your heart finally has room to speak. And it whispers things you've long forgotten: that you are capable, that you are worthy, that you are meant for more than the life you've been settling for. The courage to quiet the world is the courage to choose yourself. It is the choice to value your inner compass more than external approval. It is the decision to follow the pull of something deeper, something real, something that belongs only to you. And when you begin listening to that voice, your voice, the path forward becomes clearer. You stop drifting, you stop guessing, you stop losing yourself in the noise. Because now, you can hear the truth. Everything you've been searching for on the outside has been waiting for you on the inside. All it needed was silence. All it needed was your attention. And once you learn to listen to that still, quiet voice, it will guide you to the life you were meant to live. Self-discovery is not a journey measured in miles, passports, or landscapes. It is a journey that unfolds in the unseen places. The thoughts you bury, the emotions you ignore, the dreams you postpone. People spend their lives searching the world for answers, believing they must climb mountains, cross oceans, or follow someone else's footsteps to find meaning. But the truth is far more intimate, far more profound. The answers you seek are already inside you. They always have been. Imagine walking through a vast, endless forest at dusk. The world outside is fading into shadow and every direction looks uncertain. Most people panic in that moment. They look outward for guidance, reaching for anything that can tell them where to go. A map, a voice, a sign. But then you realize something powerful. You are not lost because the forest is dark. You are lost because you have not yet learned to trust the light within you. That inner light is your compass. It is the instinct that nudges you towards certain moments, the quiet pull that guides you towards certain dreams, the unexplainable knowing that whispers, "This is who you are." But life teaches us to silence it. Expectations drown it out. Fear buries it. Comparison dims it. Soon, you forget that the most honest direction does not come from the world, it comes from your own soul. The journey inward is not easy. It requires courage to face the thoughts you avoid, the truths you fear, and the parts of yourself you've kept in the shadows. It asks you to question your beliefs, your patterns, and the stories you've been telling yourself for years. But when you walk that inner path, step by step, layer by layer, you begin to uncover a version of yourself that feels raw, real, and alive. You begin to realize that your value was never based on how the world sees you, but on how deeply you understand yourself. You see that your purpose is not something you find outside. It is something you remember inside. And in that remembering, something beautiful happens. The world stops feeling overwhelming. Decisions become clearer. Relationships become intentional. Dreams become possible. Because once you know who you are, everything else begins to align around that truth. You no longer chase validation, because you carry certainty. You no longer fear being lost, because you always know where home is within. And you no longer seek permission to live your life, because you finally understand. The only voice that determines your direction is the one echoing in your own heart. So take the journey inward. Not because it is easy, but because it is the only path that leads to the real you. The you that has been waiting patiently, beneath the noise, beneath the doubt, beneath the world, for you to finally come home. There comes a turning point in every life when you realize that you cannot keep living by the script handed to you. The roles others wrote for you. The expectations, the labels, the limitations, they begin to feel too tight, too small, too distant from the truth pulsing in your own chest. And in that moment, something inside you awakens. It whispers that you were never meant to be a character in someone else's story. You were meant to be the author of your own. Reclaiming the pen of your life is not a grand announcement. It is a quiet revolution. It begins the moment you decide to stop performing for approval and start living for authenticity. It begins the moment you choose to confront the question that most people avoid: what do I truly want? Not what others want for me. And when you ask that question honestly, you begin to feel the chains of expectation loosen, link by link. Picture a stage where you've been acting your whole life. The lights are bright, the audience is full, and every move you make feels judged. You've spoken lines you didn't write, followed directions you didn't choose, and worn masks that never fit your soul. Now imagine stepping off that stage. Imagine the silence, the freedom, the relief of no longer pretending. That first breath you take as yourself, raw, real, unfiltered, is the beginning of writing your own story. It is the moment you reclaim your life's pen. And with that pen in your grasp, you finally realize something powerful. You do not need permission to rewrite your script. Of course, writing your own story means challenging the narratives that shaped you, the doubts inherited from others, the fears absorbed from your surroundings, the limits you never questioned because they were repeated so often they felt like truth. But once the pen is in your hands, those old chapters no longer have the power to define your future. You can choose a new direction, a new purpose, a new voice. You can decide that your past is a lesson, not a life sentence. Taking back your pen means accepting that some people won't understand the story you're writing. And that's okay. They don't have to. They are not the ones living it. The only person who must understand your journey is the one walking it, you. And as you begin to write with honesty instead of fear, with courage instead of conformity, you will feel something shift inside you. You will feel alignment. You will feel clarity. You will feel alive in a way you may not have felt in years. Your story is too precious to be dictated by others. Your dreams are too sacred to be edited by people who do not carry your heart. You were born with a voice meant to echo with truth, not imitation. So hold the pen firmly. Write boldly. And never forget, the moment you choose to create your own story is the moment your life begins to transform from a script you inherited into a masterpiece you authored with your own soul. There is a part of the self-discovery journey that many people avoid. A part wrapped not in light, but in shadow. It is the moment you come face to face with the truths you've hidden, the fears you've buried, and the versions of yourself you hoped no one would ever see. Most people turn back at this point. They cling to the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. They run from the mirror because the reflection feels too raw, too honest. But growth does not live in comfort. Transformation does not exist without truth. And the truth is this: you cannot become who you are meant to be until you face the parts of yourself you've been afraid to confront. Imagine standing alone in a dimly lit room, a single beam of light shining down on you. Everything you've avoided, every mistake, every insecurity, every wound, begins to rise from the corners of your mind. It feels heavy, almost suffocating. But if you dare to stay, if you dare to breathe, something begins to shift. The shadows that once frightened you start revealing their purpose. They are not there to break you. They are there to teach you. Facing your truths is not an act of punishment. It is an act of liberation. Because the moment you stop running from your fears, you take away their power. The moment you admit your weaknesses, you discover your strength. And the moment you acknowledge your wounds, you open the door to healing. The courage to confront yourself is the courage that separates those who merely exist from those who truly evolve. There is beauty in honesty, not the kind you show the world, but the kind you whisper to your own soul. It is in those moments of vulnerability that you uncover the roots of your decisions, the patterns in your behavior, the reasons behind your doubt. You begin to understand why you've been holding back, why you've been afraid to try, why you've been living smaller than your spirit intended. And with that understanding comes clarity, the kind that only truth can bring. Facing the uncomfortable parts of yourself also means letting go of guilt you've carried for years, mistakes you've replayed in your mind, expectations that were never yours to begin with. It means forgiving yourself not because you are perfect, but because you are human. And in that forgiveness, you reclaim energy that was once trapped in regret and transform it into strength for the journey ahead. The path of self-discovery demands bravery not in the grand, heroic sense, but in the quiet, intimate courage of sitting with your own truth and refusing to run. It is a battle fought within, a battle where the victory is not loud. It is peaceful. It is the peace of knowing yourself, the peace of accepting yourself, the peace of finally understanding that your flaws are not failures, they are invitations to grow. So stand in the mirror of your own soul without fear. Look at every part of yourself, the light, the shadow, the strength, the hurt. Because the moment you embrace all of it, you become whole. And a person who knows their truth, fully, deeply, unapologetically, becomes unstoppable. There is a quiet power that rises within you the moment you begin to truly know yourself. It is not loud or dramatic. It does not announce itself with thunder or applause. Instead, it unfolds slowly, like the first light of dawn breaking through a long night. When you understand who you are, your values, your strengths, your weaknesses, your purpose, the world can no longer shake you the way it once did. The doubts that used to haunt you lose their grip. The opinions that once controlled you fade into background noise. And the confusion that kept you wandering begins to clear, revealing a path that finally feels like yours. Imagine standing on a mountaintop as the sun begins to rise. At first, everything around you is dark, silent, uncertain. But as the light grows, the landscape comes into focus. The valleys, the cliffs, the trails you couldn't see before. This is what self-knowledge does. It brings light to the places inside you that once felt unclear. It shows you what truly drives you, what drains you, what matters to you, and what never did. And with that clarity comes a new sense of direction. One that isn't borrowed, forced, or influenced by the world, but born from the deepest layers of your own soul. Knowing yourself creates a kind of inner stability that nothing outside of you can ruin. When you know your strengths, you walk with confidence instead of comparison. When you understand your weaknesses, you move with wisdom instead of fear. When you recognize your patterns, you make choices instead of repeating mistakes. And when you accept your past, you stop allowing it to define your future. Self-knowledge gives you a foundation that no storm can shake, no criticism can crack, and no failure can destroy. This kind of clarity also changes the way you pursue your dreams. Instead of chasing everything, you focus on what is aligned with your identity. Instead of trying to be good at all things, you become great at the things that truly belong to you. Instead of living reactively, you begin living intentionally. And that intention transforms your life, not in sudden leaps, but in steady, powerful steps. The world becomes less overwhelming when you understand yourself, because you stop searching for answers outside of you. The need for external validation fades. The pressure to fit in dissolves. The fear of disappointing others softens. And in the quiet left behind, you discover freedom. Freedom to choose your path. Freedom to protect your peace. Freedom to follow your purpose. Freedom to live your truth without apology. Knowing yourself is not arrogance, it is awareness. It is the understanding that you were born with a unique design, one that deserves to be honored, explored, and expressed. And when you finally step into that understanding, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to align. Opportunities match your strengths. Relationships reflect your values. Decisions feel grounded instead of chaotic. And every step you take feels like it belongs to the person you were always meant to become. That is the power of knowing yourself. It turns a confused existence into a meaningful journey. It turns a wandering soul into a purposeful one. And it turns your life into a story that finally feels like it was written by you. With clarity, confidence, and unshakable truth. There is a moment in life when you begin to look back at every chapter you've lived. The victories, the failures, the heartbreaks, the moments you thought would break you. And you realize something profound. Every piece of your story has shaped the person you are becoming. The world teaches you to celebrate only your triumphs, to hide your wounds, to forget your mistakes. But self-discovery teaches you the opposite. It shows you that your life is not defined by one moment, one success, or one failure. It is defined by the entire tapestry of experiences that have carved depth into your soul. And when you finally understand that, you stop wishing your past away and start honoring it. Imagine your life as a stained glass window. From a distance, you see a beautiful image, but up close, you notice each piece is a shard, sharp edges, broken fragments, bits of glass that once existed as something else. Yet, when placed together, with light shining through, they form something breathtaking. That is you. Your wounds, your losses, your mistakes. They are not evidence of your weakness. They are the pieces that give your story its color, texture, and meaning. Without them, you would be flat. You would be unfinished. You would be someone without depth or wisdom. Your victories matter, yes. But it is your wounds that teach you compassion. It is your failures that teach you humility. It is your struggles that teach you strength. And it is your survival that teaches you resilience. Every moment you thought was the end was actually the shaping of a new beginning. Every disappointment that left you shattered was preparing you to rise with sharper clarity and stronger foundation. You don't grow because everything goes right. You grow because something went wrong and you chose to face it. When you stop hiding your story, you stop hiding your power. When you embrace every part of your journey, you free yourself from shame. And when you acknowledge that your scars are proof that you lived, fought, and endured, you begin to walk through the world with a different kind of confidence. A quiet, unshakable one. Because now you know, nothing you've been through was wasted. Your painful chapters taught you lessons no book could teach. Your heartbreaks taught you what kind of love you deserve. Your failures taught you where your true strength lies. Your losses taught you what truly matters. And your moments of darkness taught you where to find your own light. Self-discovery is not just about knowing your strengths. It is about understanding the stories behind them. It is about recognizing that your character was sculpted by storms as much as by sunshine. It is about realizing that your depth comes from surviving things you once thought you couldn't handle. And it is about finally seeing your past not as something to be ashamed of, but as something to stand on. Because the truth is simple and powerful. You are not who you were. You are who you became because of it. And that makes you unstoppable. There comes a moment in every journey when you take a single step, a quiet, almost unnoticeable step, and something inside you shifts forever. It is the moment you finally begin to understand yourself. Not the version you show the world, not the version shaped by expectations, but the real you. The one buried beneath years of noise, doubt, and emotional weight. And the moment you meet that version, life stops feeling random. It stops feeling heavy. It stops feeling like something happening to you. Instead, it becomes something you are actively shaping. That is the power of self-discovery. The moment truth rises, Everything around you begins to rise with it. Picture yourself walking through a fog-covered field. For years, you've been moving forward without really seeing the path, stumbling, guessing, hoping you're heading the right way. The fog represents confusion, fear, and the lack of clarity that comes from not knowing who you are. But then, one day, as you take another step, the fog begins to lift. Just a little at first. A faint outline of a road appears. A silhouette, a direction. And slowly, the world around you starts to make sense. That is what happens when you begin to understand yourself. Your values, your desires, your boundaries, your dreams. The fog that once blinded you starts to disappear, and for the first time, you see a path that feels honest. Understanding yourself changes everything, because it changes the decisions you make. You stop chasing things that don't belong to you. You stop holding on to people who were never meant to stay. You stop forcing yourself into spaces where your soul doesn't fit. And instead, you begin moving toward things that align with your heart, careers that match your passions, relationships that honor your worth, choices that reflect your truth. Life stops being a struggle for direction and becomes a journey of alignment. When you understand yourself, you become stronger, not because you suddenly know all the answers, but because you finally trust the voice inside you. You trust your intuition. You trust your instincts. You trust the wisdom that has been speaking from within, even when you ignored it. And as that trust grows, so does your courage. You begin taking risks you once feared. You begin speaking truths you once whispered. You begin standing in confidence you once doubted. Because now, you are no longer guided by uncertainty, you are guided by self-awareness. This shift transforms your relationships too. You no longer settle for being misunderstood, unheard, or undervalued. You stop shrinking yourself just to fit into places that were never made for you. You stop pleasing others at the cost of losing yourself, and you begin attracting people who respect your boundaries, share your values, and walk at the same rhythm as your soul. When you know yourself, you call into your life what was always meant for you. Life begins to change the moment you begin to change. And you begin to change the moment you discover who you truly are. Every truth you uncover becomes a key. Every insight becomes a door. Every realization becomes a new beginning. And soon you find yourself living not by default, but by design, your design. Because self-discovery isn't just a journey, it is the moment everything starts to fall into place. It is the moment your real life begins. So here is my reminder to you: slow down. Look within. Ask the questions you've ignored. Follow the pull you've dismissed. Listen to the wisdom your heart has been whispering for years. Your journey of self-discovery is not a race, it is a revelation. And the moment you begin it, the world around you begins to change. Because you, the real you, finally steps forward. You are not here to live someone else's life. You are here to discover your own. And once you do, nothing will ever be the same again.